got here a signal ground. Now use the signal ground to put your grounding wire from your turntable. Turn mine to a little hook, put the wire on there like that, and screw it in just like that. Next, I'll hook up my turntable into my MPC 4000. These are your RCA inputs right here. Another one, right there. You gotta make sure you only put turntables in here. The reason why they've got some sort of phono equalizer, which is applied to compensate for the frequency response of the signal that comes in the input here at these jacks. So these jacks are only good for phonos only. Put your turntables in, and that's it. Now here we have a switch. This input switch will select either the phono section or the line in mic record section. This side is for line and mic. Now our line section is a really cool connector right here. You can either use a phono jack, it fit real good, nice and tight too. Or, say on a microphone, got an XLR plug. Let me get one for you. Here's an XLR. I'll take this and pop it right in there. I've got input from a mic line. Now MIDI is musical instrument digital interface. I can use this cable and input or output. I may want to input a keyboard part or send that keyboard part out to a module or to another MIDI receiving device. Here, I can put it in as two. I can put one here and one. I can have two MIDI ins. I can also get a MIDI cable so the MIDI out to another instrument, in and out. Which is the section right here. We can run the main out from there to our speakers or to our main mixer system. We can use XLR, or over here, we can use quarter inch. This, of course. Of course, we use a female to the male to get our output to go XLR out to our main output. This is really cool because you now either have an XLR or we can use a quarter inch. This is a USB cable. My other end goes into my computer. I'll take this, make sure I got it right here, and use a USB cable. Next. This is a USB cable. My other end goes into my computer. I'll take this, make sure I got it right here, and use a USB cable. I want to show you a SCSI drive. How I use a SCSI. Here's a SCSI connection first. Now SCSI we use to move, I guess, transfer data back and forth from some sort of storage device. A cable like this, snaps right on. And take it out. See these little snaps, these little quippers, take it like this, let's put it on. Okay, now I'm going to show you a zip drive. Now we like to use a zip drive with our MPC 4000 because we have a lot of our own sounds, our Sample Kings disc we use with our MPC. Now we have a 50 pin, showed you earlier, and here on the back of my SCSI is a 25 pin, which I normally, like I showed you before, will just hook up right there. Got a foot switch right here. There's a cable for it. I'll plug it right into here for a foot switch. Now, SMPTE was invented by the Society of Motion Pictures Television Engineers, and it's called a SMPTE code. Now, we can go input, and we can go output. And we use the code to sync our MPC 4000 with receiving a SMPTE code or sending out a code to another device that will receive it and will interpret the code so that device will be in sync with our MPC pattern or sequences. The digital RCA cable is right here. so we can record into our MPC digitally. We also have, as you can see right here, our outputs. Those outputs are for setting, let's say maybe a bass drum, or a snare drum, a hi-hat, a kick, or sample loop, out of these outputs. As you can see also, it's 1, then 2 right, 1 left, 2 right, 3 left, 4 right. So you can set in stereo pairs. We have 4 pairs, or we have 8 separate outputs. We also have a system known as ADATs, which are really cool. If you got them, and you can use them sometimes. We don't use them anymore in our studios. We tend to use a lot of Pro Tools, and we do dump from ADAT. So here, we have light pipe connect. Let me pull these little plugs out. So right there, we can plug a light pipe cable directly into our ADAT and record digitally again. We can light pipe in and light pipe out. We have our own tags on here so we know. See this ADAT there and DA7 there? We can record from separate systems, whether ADAT or DA7. We can record light pipe in and out of our MPC. This is a really cool feature. We also have a word clock, which will lock up our sample rate. That goes like that. See, let me show you this cable. This is the cable here. Inside there is a little wire that goes inside. Take this, put it on the edge, and we lock it in. And that's our word clock in. The power goes, thanks O, right over here. Right there our power cable goes in. Put that in last. Now once you're set up, you're ready to go. Okay, here in the front, we've got a couple of connections also. We've got a USB connection right here. And this USB connection, it allows you to use like a USB CD-ROM or a movable drive or even a USB keyboard. It's really cool. And right here, as for, of course, our headphones. And we also have a little turn the dial, and we can adjust the headset level. Now here, to get some extra money, you can insert like a 3.5 disk drive here. And on the other end here, on ours, we have a CD-ROM, so we can read CDs into our MPC 4000. Okay, here we have our LCD display, which is backlit. The reason why is because we have 5 different positions for it. We can have it up like this. See that? Now below our LCD display, we have our F buttons. F1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now these are like a quick key button. You can use them to access certain pages in certain modes on our MPC 4000. Okay, now we have our gain switch, which is to the right of our LCD display, which is right here. And you push it in for high gain. That means we're going to add more gain to the input in our mic line. Now high is for your microphones, your mic level. And pull it up. Low is for a line level or for your phonograph. And you put your turntables in. Now next to our gain switch, we have our record gain. Now record gain is really cool. As you can see here, I can turn this knob like this, and they both move. There are left and right gain. The top part is the left, and the lower part is the right. As you can see from the diagram, right below the knob. So we can turn it up, increase the gain. Or we can adjust it. Let me try this. See, I've got one a little higher or louder than the other one. I compare. Now we have our master volume out. We can go from minimum to our maximum and adjust our level that will hear back from the MPC. Now here we have our quick link section, which is right here. You can assign internal MPC parameters or MIDI messages to the knobs and sliders of this section and control them in real time. This is really cool. Now, for example, here, this key accesses the Q-Link setup page, where you can select the parameter that will be assigned to each knob or slider. Here, we have the sequence key. Now, this key accesses the Q-Link sequence page, where you can record Q-Link values and play them back automatically. Now we have these 4 Q knobs. Now they control the change or any difference in internal parameters can be assigned to these knobs, allowing you to control the values in real time. So I can turn this knob and say, make that one active, make this one active, and the primary one here, make that one active, and we can make them active and control either parameters in my setup or in my sequence, like right there. That's really cool. Now here we have our pad section. These are our pads. Now these pads are 1 through 16. These pads are velocity sensitive. You can hit it soft or hit it hard and get the right velocity to it. Or you can set it to be full velocity. Press that key right there, you hit it, if you hit it soft or hard, you get the full sound of whatever sample, drums or whatever, horns or bass line or this, that, whatever you got there will be that same full velocity. Now on top, we have our pad bank keys. Now we have 16 here. Well, in B we have 16 more sounds. In C, 16 more. In D, 16 more. All the way to F, which is really super cool. We can have a lot of sounds in here. Now, we also have our next sequence key, which is right here. We go to next sequence. After one sequence plays, we can choose the next sequence. We use our track mute key. Now, we press this button here. Certain pads are set for different tracks from 1 to 16. You can turn that track off, or turn that track off, or turn that track on. You can mute a track within the sequence. Now here, on the side, we have our Q-Link sequence key. Now this key is an on-off switch for our Q-Link section we showed you earlier. We have our pad assign key. Now this key assesses the pad assign page, where you can change the note number of that particular pad. For example, it's going to be C60. I may want to make it C62. I can change the assignment of that pad by pressing this key, and we'll see it in our screen display. And of course, we have our full level key you saw earlier, and 16 levels. Now, when you use this key, you can change the sound of a specific pad will be assigned to 16 pads. To say, for example, I may have a sound like a violin. I can play it here, it could be soft. I can play it here, it could be loud. 16 levels, 16 different levels. Or I can use it for 16 different tunings of the same sound, which is really cool when you got a mix or you're trying to make a hi-hat soft in one section or louder in the other one. Or your bass line soft and louder here. It's really super cool. Next, we've got our erase key. Now this key is used to erase events from within a track. Now events can be erased in real time while overdubbing, or individual events can be erased while the sequence is stopped. You'll say, for example, let's say we have a sequence. We'll press erase, hold it down during that sequence while it's playing in real time. I'll erase that one section. See, hold erase, hold the pad I want to erase from. That's super cool, man. Just like an MPC 3000. We also have our note repeat key. Here, our note repeat key, when you hold down this key and press one of these pads, the sound assigned to the pad is triggered repeatedly over and over again. Lift the pad up, it stops to be repeated. That means a note repeat. Press this, repeat that note. Press this, or I can repeat this note, or repeat that one, or repeat this one. It's really cool. It's a great way to really sort of flip your samples. Now we have our data entry section, which is right here. We can enter data through our numerical keypads. These keys are used to input numerical values directly into our MPC in the particular field that's displayed. Let's have our enter key. Once you put the values in, you want to say enter that value in. Well, we enter it in. Let's have a plus and a minus key. Now, this key switches the sign, negative or positive, on the value that was input in the numerical key. Let's say put number 2 in. Well, we want a -2. -2 might even be -2 in tuning or in pitch bend. Now, next to our numerical key, we have our mode section. In this section, you can switch between various modes of our MPC 4000. And this new machine has a lot of modes for you. We've got our record, we have our sample, go to our program section, multi, mixer, we can have our effects, we can save the data, we can load it, we can go to global parameters, we can pick our song section, miscellaneous, we have our MIDI section for our MIDI input, of course, we've got our main screen, we have our sequence edit and our step edit. All designed to help you get through certain modes in your machine in case you want to go from recording, you may want to go to MIDI. You may want to go to, let me save this data now. It's really great. Now here, in our control section, we have, first of all, our timing correction key. This key is really cool. Now when it's lit, this key activates the timing correction that is set at the particular note value in that particular sequence. Here we have our master tempo. Now, when this is lit, all sequences will play at the one master tempo. When it's not lit, each sequence will play at its own tempo that it's already been set to. If you made a sequence that say sequence 1 is 90 BPMs and sequence 2 is 92 BPMs, they'll play at their own tempo. But when master's on, it'll play at the one tempo set at master. Sequence undo. Let's say, for example, you made a sequence and you put a part in and you don't like the part you did. You press the undo sequence button. Next, below the undo sequence button, we have our tap tempo button. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You get the tempo of what you want to get for that particular track. I want to make it faster. You tap the tempo in, and it'll show on our display, and that'll be the tempo you want to use. Now, we also have here in this section, we've got our window key. Now, this activates a window on a particular page. Let's say if you're on a page and you go to a different field, well, you can hit this window, it'll open up more parameters within that particular page. Now next, we have our shift key. Now this key is used in conjunction with other keys, to get to a sort of shortcut. We can shift and move around. Then we have our cursor keys. This allows us to move the cursor up and down, or side to side, left to right. Next we have our block cursor. Now, if the current displayed page is divided into blocks, you can use these keys to switch from any block you want to switch to. Next we have our step key, right here. That's a step event key. Now, these keys are used sort of move back and forth within a sequence, in units or in steps, of a particular song. By holding down the go-to key and pressing one of these keys, you can move an event that's immediately before or after the next current event. So you press the go-to and move the next event, or the next event, over 2 events. An event would be like a snare drum or a hi-hat, or maybe even a sample in one section, maybe to move the step over to the next section. Now, the go-to key, this key is used to move the current location to a specific locate point, or to access that locate window, where you can register a locate point. It's really cool. You can get to that one point you want to get in the sequence, where you press this down, you can locate that point and move it either here or move it with your bar keys. Now our bar keys, these keys are used to move backwards and forth within the sequence in units of, let's say, 1 measure. By holding the go-to key down, you can move to that specific measure. Next we have our record key. Press that key down. See it light up there? We're ready to record. And when you hold this key down and press record, you're going to record over whatever you recorded already. Or when you start to record, you can start to record by pressing that key down and press our play button. Play start next. And we're ready to go. Press stop, we're ready to go there too. Next we have our overdub key. This key is really important because once you record something, you want to overdub. Let's say you record a bass line or a drum part. You want to add more stuff to it. You want to record over that. Press your overdub, press your play start, and we're ready to go. And we're overdubbing what we already have. Now our stop key. I can stop anything. I can go record, play. I want to stop. It's pretty obvious. Next is our play key. We got our sequence, it's going. We press our play key to play. Also have our play and our play start. We can play from where we are or play from the beginning. Okay, we've got our setup going. We know how to put the input into the back of our MPC 4000. It's time to start sampling. I'm going to press record. And here we go. Now as you can see here, our first option, move the cursor over, is our input source. Now our input source is whatever we have connected to the back of our MPC. It could be a CD player, a microphone, a turntable, or whatever. We could use the jacks to record in mono, stereo, and even digital. Now, we can do digital input. We can also use the main output of our MPC, and that will be connected right to our sampler, and we can record the main out. We can also record through the light pipes we saw earlier in the back of our MPC 4000. We can record through the ADAT light pipe in stereo from 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and 7 and 8. These represent stereo pairs. We can also record into our MPC 4000 through the internal analog input. In this case right now, I want to record analog in. Next, we have our mode. We can record in stereo, mono left and right. We also have bit. We have a bit depth of 16-bit or 24-bit. We can also monitor the input source. This means we can hear back what we're recording. Or we can turn it off if we don't need to hear that. In my case, I want to turn it on. We also have original. What original represents is the actual pitch when we sample, that when triggered, that sample will play back at the original pitch we sampled it at. For example, if we had a keyboard connected to our MPC and we hit the key 60, C3, or C1, I can make any pitch I'd like to on that keyboard the original pitch that sample will be triggered at. For more information, always read your manual. Next, we have, this is a great feature, I love this feature. It's called Auto Normalize. Now what it actually does, let's say you have a input that's very low. Well, you want to make sure it comes out loud enough. When you go to Auto Normalize, it will raise the level of whatever you record to 0 dB, which will be the maximum threshold level, the maximum peak of that sample. Next, we have the threshold level. As you can see, at those two little boxes moving back and forth from left and right, as I increase it from the minus up to the positive side, the threshold moves up higher in dB, and they're at 100 dB right there. Here, we're at the lowest, which is minus 56 dB. We set our threshold level so that once our input source surpasses the threshold level, our MPC 4000 will start to sample. Next, below that, we can set the time of how long we want our MPC to sample. As I turn my wheel. In this case, in stereo, I can do 33 minutes and 19 seconds. That's excellent compared to the old MPCs. I can also record start in threshold, or I can go to manual. In this case, I would just press F6 when I record, and no matter how loud or how low the signal is, the MPC will start to record and record for whatever length I have set for my MPC to record to. Set my length, I'm ready to record. Now, I want to go to my recording setup window. Now in this window, we can actually set a bit depth, and we can set our pre-recording time. Now here, what we actually do is that pre-recording has to do with the specifics of how much is actually recorded prior to the actual recording. For example, we have our threshold level set up. We can have just a few milliseconds prior to that so our MPC can start recording before then. So don't cut off the important first hit of any sample we're actually trying to record. For further information, just read more in your manual. This is going to explain to you further about what I'm about to do. I'm going to increase the amount of milliseconds I can take, and I think a maximum one here is 999 milliseconds, which is really great. I'm going to go to about maybe, I prefer to be about maybe close to 300 milliseconds. Right around here is perfect for me. I like this. And this will be my pre-record time prior to sampling, when I'm actually sampling in my threshold start. Close the window. And so as you can see, we have this threshold level here that moves up and down. Well, prior to that, it will start recording just a little bit. Right before the sample reaches that threshold level, the recording will start. Once it passes, it's already gone. And we're going to have the first part of our sample recorded more accurately. You need to experiment and to adjust how you use your pre-recording level. Okay, I'm about ready to record now. I've got my setup going. I got my bit depth. It's time to get started. I'm going to start one of our Sample King CDs. Now I can adjust the record gain. Just trying to get a little bit louder. I like to record the peak optimal level. As you can see here, oh yeah. Well, I want to record manually first, and we'll get an idea of that first. I like that one. Let me rewind it. I'll press F6 to record. And I can stop by pressing F6. I stop recording. It's now processing, and we're auto-normalizing our sound, as you can see. Now I have options also. This is a keep or retry option. I can name the sample. I can keep this recording and press F6. I can add to the program, which keeps the sample and adds it to the program I like to use it in. I can also play it by pressing F3. I can also retry. Okay, next I want to use record start using the threshold setting. In this case here, as you can see, we're set the threshold. I'm going to set my threshold dB level to about minus 36. Next, I'm going to set my recording time. I'm going to take about a couple of small samples here. So I figure no more than about 30 seconds. Now here you can see below our screen we have a margin, which is called our margin level. This is the level between the actual 0 dB output and the sound going into our MPC 4000. I'm going to turn on my CD player and pick the samples. Okay, I'm ready to record. I'll press F6 to record. As you can see right now, in the record ready window, it says waiting for input signal. This means we're set up, ready to go, but the MPC 4000 will not start recording until it receives our input signal. Here we go. See? And a recording. As you can see the meter go through, it's recording the full timeout. All the way to the end. And now it's going to process. And I have auto normalize set. So now it's going to adjust the level of our sample to the peak volume. Now once we record, we have our dialog box again, whether to keep our sample or to retry. And as you can see there, we can rename our sample. To do that, just turn our jog wheel and we can rename our sample. We can rename the sample whatever we'd like to. We can press enter once we have a name we like. And we have other options below. We can keep this recording. We could add it to a program and keep it. We can play the recorded sample, or we can discard this recording and try it again. Now, first of all, I want to play it back. Sounds good. Okay. Now, to keep is very simple. To add to a program is what we're going to do next. I'll press F5, and I can add this to my current program. I can select the program. I have a hi-hat set, a bump set, a Jeep set in my program. I can put in my kick set. Or I can make a new program. But first, I want to probably assign it if I'm going to put in a new program. I'll go to Assign to Note. Here I can go to 60 C3, which in general MIDI equals high bongo. Or I can press a pad to assign the sample to that pad. I can press my first pad, second pad. As you can see, I can assign my sample to any pad I'd like to, and each pad corresponds to a particular MIDI note and number. In this case, we have 55 G2, which equals general MIDI splash cymbal. I can also turn my jog wheel to assign it to the original pitch again. Now, Do It assigns it to the program, and it will be at that pad that I choose with that particular MIDI note. I can also create a new program. So I have a whole bunch of new samples I may want to use for one particular song. I can press F4 and I can name my new program. In this case, the MPC has already named the program, Program 3. We can also set the type of program. It can be a drum program, where I would store my drum sounds, like kicks, snares, hi-hats, and drum loops. Or it can be a key group program, where I can store bass sounds, guitar parts, or any particular synth sound I like, in case I want to rearrange it into a key group so I can play it from an external keyboard if I'd like to, or use the pads to trigger the sounds. In this case, I'll leave it as a drum group. I can press Do It. And here we have it, again, to assign to this program. We can assign the pitch, in this case E60. I can press the pad, and Do It assigns it to the program. Do It, and I'm assigned to the program, and I'm right back where I started, ready to sample all over again. Okay, as you can see here, we're in our sample edit window, which is our trim window. And to get to this, we press trim, which is F2. And I can see at the top, I can select any sample I want to select. As you can see, the waveforms are changing. I can pick any sample. And you can see also here in the lower half, we can see where the actual start is of that sample. Back to my original sample here. I can also select a view, a right or a left view if I'm in stereo. And if I have a sample that's not stereo, we have a right-left view. We have a mix of either one. That means it sees it no matter whether it's mono, stereos, left or right. As you can see here, that means mono. We also have our kilohertz. And of course, the 16-bit bit depth. And we can monitor the sample or monitor the program with a multi. Now we're going to go back here, up to sample. This is our start field, from where the sample starts from. This is the end field, to where the sample ends. Here we have our loop section. If we want to loop a particular section of our sample, we can set the loop parameters, as you can see here. And we can also set our playback mode. Well, it's one shot, which means we hit the pad once, the sample will play from the beginning to the end one time. Or we can loop the sample. We can hit it one time and it'll loop straight through. You must hold it down though. You've got to hold it down to keep the loop in progress. Now right here is our display field. It shows us the loop we're displaying, the shift and blocks, see the blocks and diagram. And we can also zoom in or out. We can also select play the whole sample, which is F6, or edit the sample, which is F5. The Q effects and our region. Now we also have a playback mode, it's no loop. With no loop, I can hold the pad down, but the minute I let go, the sound stops. So, we control the actual sound by how long we hold the pad down. But it won't loop. While in loop mode, if you hold the pad down, it will loop. Well, now I have my sample, but I want to pick what I want to use. I want to edit my sample. So we must press sample. Okay, here we're in sample. That's my first sample I took. Now, as you can see here, this is a sample list. It has all the samples that are currently in my MPC 4000. As you can see here, there's an asterisk right here. You'll see an asterisk next to all samples that either have been edited or are new samples. Now here, we can see as mono or stereo, or as a loop, if it's set to loop in our edit menu. We also have the frequencies that our samples are at. For example, 44.1. My 808 dope bass drum is at 30K. We can also see the bit depth, which of course, 16-bit. Well, I have the sample I want to use. Next, I want to trim that sample down. I'm going to press F2. Here I am in F2. As you can see, I've already set it to loop. I'm going to turn this off. I've got one shot set. I can actually set my start point. As you can hear in the bottom window, this gives us a stronger view of our start point. I can move to the end, and here also we see a much better and clearer view of the end. But if my start, I can increase it. Now see, it's going in small increments. As you can see, the bottom part move. I can press Shift and then the cursor, so my left cursor, and I can move up to get even more increments and move in larger divisions. As you can see, the first part move all the way to the end. Now, I can get the end, press Shift, my cursor left, and I can get even wider and view my entire sample. Now to play, I can press F6. It'll play the entire sample. Then the last part. Now, as you can see, this sample I did not auto-normalize, just so I can show you the range. See how this is louder here, the first sample, with a space before the second sample appears. One part is louder than the rest. You can see the peaks and valleys of that sample. See this here? Same here. This way you can tell how loud your sample is. Also, I have it at one shot. I have it a loop or no loop at all in my playback mode. Now, I want to get this sample here. I like that better than the rest of them. I'll go back to start, press my cursor, get it back up to start, press Shift, my left cursor arrow. I can move my start all the way over there. See that? That's really cool. Might want to go right back in and move it all the way over to right there. I'm getting close, but I want to make sure I'm just right. So now I want to adjust right where the start happens. Hit my pad. Okay, great. Next, I want to get the ending. I want to bring my cursor up just a little bit, right to about there. And next, I'll press Shift and my right cursor so I can move in smaller increments and get just close enough to the edge of my sample. As you can see, we're trying to get real close to it. Look at the bottom screen, you'll see I'm getting closer right there. I'm going to move back a little bit more just to where the sample dies out. I want to get closer and closer back in. Maybe right about here. Perfect. As I hit my pad, I can see I have the right amount I want to use. But now I want to set my loop up. And so as you can see, my start is good here. But I want to make sure I have the right size for the loop. I want to go to 603,385. I'll press my shift, my left cursor, and I'm going to go to the maximum. See how it's highlighting? It's going to hide the entire amount. There we go. To the maximum I've allowed already in my trim setting. Next, I can press a pad. And my loop is set. Now, if you think you want to adjust it, in my case, I might want to adjust a little bit. I may want to bring this in a little bit more. So what I'll do here is I could bring my loop in just a hair more if I'd like to. Maybe right about there. And I'll go to here maybe and press the pad. I feel it's rushing right there. So, next thing I'll do is maybe a little bit more. I like that. That sounds good for me. Yeah, it's perfect. And so you can adjust your loop. And if I don't want to use loop, I just go to one shot. And it'll play, once I tap it, it'll play to the end of the sample. Okay, I've got my samples. I want to probably put them in a program next. Well, I've already created a new program earlier called Program 3. Well, now I want to check it out. Press Program, and here we have my Program 3. As you can see, it says Drum. It's a drum program. Now, I'm going to scroll down. Here we are at my next level program. I'll press F2. And here we can see the samples that are in my program. Move the cursor over. And we can see my first sample is beat. Next one's a 909 kick. Hip snare. We've got a shaker, close hi-hat, a beat loop, a horn, a rim shot, another beat, and a dope 808 kick. As you can see, these samples actually have level and tuning. You can see I have level, how loud. I have panning, whether it's to the left or to the right, using, of course, my jog wheel. Or in the middle. We can also set the output of that particular sample, or zone as it's known in the MPC 4000. Now we can use multi, or left and right, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. Since the sample is stereo, it will send out in pairs. Or we can send it just left, right, 1 through 8 in our outputs. And within our effects card, we can also send the amount that we want to send into our effects, from 40 dB all the way to 0 dB. We also have our send. We can send to our effect either multi or not send at all, or send just to the first channel of our effect, the second one, which is B, the third one, which is C, the fourth one, which is D. Or we can set it in pairs out to our effect, A and B or C and D. Now here, We can also go to pitch, which is F3. Now here I can set the pitch of my sample. I can set it to whatever pitch I think is best for that sample, and I can keep it constant. We can also set we want to be poly or not. In this case I don't. Or turn the mute groove on or off. Okay, now I'm going to try to explain some pages on this program field. I can move back to key group mix. Move my cursor to this key group field and press window. Now here we can see the program. We can see it's note 38D. We can see the pad that it hits is A6, the program. I can even copy to that program. And information can be changed. See? You can see what each note belongs to each pad. We can see which note belongs to which pad. I can press do it and I'll copy the parameters. In this case, I'll press escape. It's just to show you how it works. I can also go here, press window, and we can get information about our sample. We can see the sample rate, the bit depth, and we can change the original note. And we can see the tuning of our sample. We also can see the looped sample, where it says looped, and it says ST for stereo mono. I'll close this window also. Now here I have a new program. As you can see, we already have a key group written into this program. I can pick whatever sound I want or whatever sample I like to put into the program. And each one of these samples corresponds to its level, panning, output, the effect, amount of dBs, and the send to which effect. So you can add your samples to your program. Well, here I'm in my program list, and I want to create a new program. This is how it's done. I will press window. As you can see, I have several options. Program name, and drum for type, copy. This will open copy window, and new will create new program. Now I want to do a new program. I'll press F5. I have a new program. I can call it a key group program or a drum program. In this case, I'll make it a drum program. I can rename my program. If I like what I want to use, I'll press do it. And there it is. Okay, I've got my program here, already made up. Let's call my next level. This will be the next video. I can hit the pad, as you can see, and it goes right to it. If I want to change the level, I can move to here and change my level. So once you assign your samples to your program, and you've got them in the program, and you want to adjust them, you just hit the pad. You've got it assigned to, maybe lower the level, raise the level, or change the panning to that program. As you can see here, that's what we're doing right now. I can increase the level. And get my level where I want to have it at. By hitting the pad, I will trigger the sound. I can also, of course, change the pitch of my samples. I can make the 808 a little deeper if I want to. But you can hear it pitch down more. Okay, first thing I want to do is check my samples. It's pad 15, 808 on 14, got my horns, snare drum on 12, hi-hat on pad 11, ooh, cool hi-hat on pad 10, loop on pad 9, a little sub-bass sound on pad 6, and a kick drum on pad 5. So first I'm going to take this one. Oh, that's cool. It's from the Johnson Brothers. I'm going to try and record that one in. I want to hear that back. See, I'm in sync there. I've already pre-timed out everything. I'm set to 84 BPM. I'll go to my next track. 808. That's kind of cool. That's how I want to have it. That's like that. Got a hi-hat somewhere. So my track should be my hat. Got a pre-selected programming. My shaker. Let me set that back up now. And my shaker going in there. Right. Good. Now the shaker's being recorded on track number 3. So the shaker hi-hat. And my snare's on track number 4. You gotta make sure your parts coincide.